Speaker, and I rise in relation to the motion put forward by the Deputy Premier around level crossing removal. And I'll be focusing mostly on my electorate, but I will note from the member for Bentley that it was very important that you did state that obviously we're sitting over here in these irrelevant seats, I think what you're referring to. So saying that the Berwick community is irrelevant, and I don't believe they are irrelevant. I think they're a very important community. And during the time that I have opposed some of those level crossing removals and one that's still underway, that we still have had a swing to the Victorian Liberal Party. So there is people out there, not everybody thinks it's a fantastic idea with level crossing removal. However, what I do say is level crossing removals, overall, there's been some good results from them, so I won't deny that. I do note in the motion, though, they seem to skip anything about cost, about the cost overruns, about some of the issues with some of the prices on it, about how it's impacted on the housing prices, about the changes from the big build and what it's done to build a house in Victoria, on the change in the way of our trades to try and find a tradie for a house to get a house built. And I look at some of these things about choices. And the government has choices on what level crossing they have done. Now, again, I won't focus on how they are majority in Labor seats, but what I will say is there's one in Beaconsfield which is probably going to be my main focus. It's currently under construction of level crossing removal in Beaconsfield. It's at the Beaconsfield railway station. And I note the member for Sunbury at the table says he's been there. So he would have noted whilst there, I hope. And if he hasn't, I'm more than happy to do another tour if you'd like to come out and have a look through. At the Beaconsfield railway station, people living with a disability can't get the train unless they have to go to the end of the railway line, end of the railway station on the platform, whether it's rain, hail or shine, where there's no cover and they've got no option other than to get wet, sit out in the extreme heat whilst they're waiting for a train. And that is simply not fair. And that's what I say, Acting Speaker, is when it comes to choices. So the choice from this government is to put a level crossing removal over a road that no one is calling for, that no one wants, that is not going to fix a problem because the problem doesn't exist, that is going to take away parkland. It's going to cost over $100 million. They have just torn up 360 car parks at Beaconsfield railway station. 360 car parks that this government, with the feds, have funded just as recently as 2 years ago. And they are tearing all of that up. What a waste of money. What a waste of money. Our community is a sensible community and they will talk about it continuously. They'll look at some of the ones down in Pakenham. I know the member of Pakenham will probably speak on this, and they will say there's been some changes that are positive with the level crossing removal through Pakenham. On the Pakenham line, there's been some positive changes along the whole Pakenham line about how you can go into the city to make it safer. I think that is fantastic. But that one at Beaconsfield is a poor choice. Now, if you go to Station Street and Officer, which they won't be putting a level crossing removal, they're just going to take away the boom gates and close the road. Again, not an option I think should be used. It should have been either a level crossing or, in my view, remain open. But the one in Beaconsfield, they're going to go through one of the oldest houses. It is the oldest house in Beaconsfield. If this was a house in the middle of Hawthorn, in the middle of Malvern, in the middle of Toorak, people would be up in arms. It was the original Stations Master's house. However, they're going to be taking off the back end of that house, a house rebuilt by Ian Cole that is one of the most stunning properties in Beaconsfield. And the family that lived there, obviously getting paid out by the government, would have loved to have spoken up, but in the position they were, due to employment, couldn't do that. So we were their voice. Next to it is a tree that we've had to fight and fight and fight to keep, because the first original plans took out that tree along with the house. Now, in the Berwick electorate, $100+ million, if we're talking about some of those choices, I'll give the government some options that they can do with that money. An MRI machine at the Casey Hospital, so people waiting at the moment don't have to go on a wait list to go down to Dandenong. There's people there at the moment that have to wait 4 and 5 days for an MRI scan, even in urgent cases. They have to travel down. Our road network, which I invited the Minister to come out and have a look at, and you look at Thompson's Road and Narrewarren Berwick Road, Berwick Clyde Road, which is an intersection that needs to be upgraded. It must be upgraded, and it's 5 years away. When you look at sports facilities to our area, the amount of kids that can't play sport because there is no access to facilities. There is not enough ovals. The land space is there, but there is not enough ovals. There is not enough facilities, and as we will see shortly, and we'll be very proud to see shortly, more and more young participants, particularly girls, playing soccer. How amazing will it be to get them involved in their local sports club, but when they get down there, they're told, "We're really sorry, we haven't got the ground for you to play on." That just should not happen in a growth corridor when the government is spending $100 million fixing a problem that doesn't exist. We've asked for the numbers of the cars that travel through there. What's the count? How many vehicles travel through? When do they travel through? How long do they have to wait? And any person who's had a level crossing removal in their area would understand it's probably pretty important data, because that's how you identify what the problem is at that intersection. Now, the numbers came through from that, and when they came through, we asked what was the timing they were done. The road count was done before the O'Shea Road triangle was turned into an O'Shea Road diamond, when Clyde Road was shut due to upgrades on Clyde Road, and the main way through was this intersection. But if you take that intersection out and you speak to any person on Kenilworth Avenue, if you speak to any person on Station Avenue opposite the railway station, if you speak to them even at the school, which probably creates the most traffic in the area, the maximum wait would be a couple of minutes during school time, at the beginning and end of school. And without being rude, Acting Speaker, on the Princess Highway, which is 2 lanes each way with no obstacles in the way, it's 3 or 4 minutes to get past Haileybury, because traffic happens at 8 o'clock to 8:30. It's exactly the same as every school. So this level crossing will not alter that at all. It won't change it at all. But it has to come back to what we are going to do with that money. On top of that, why is it that those in Berwick and Beaconsfield have had to wait so long to get the car parks upgraded? They have had to wait so long to get the funding that it actually took a federal Liberal government to get the final funding in there to get those car parks done, now gets torn up. 360 car parks, probably $50 million. So we've now got $150 million thrown down the drain. $150 million in a growth corridor. Now, I know there's other members here that would all drive along Clyde Road occasionally, and Clyde Road, Berwick-Cranbourne Road, woeful. Linsell Boulevard, the delays on Linsell Boulevard. It should be, in my view, probably a 12-month project. It's been going now for 2 years, and they've just closed it for another 4 months because of incompetence of trying to get these projects done. The developers are doing their section in duplicating parts of the road, and every time that happens, there's more delays, but the government's not putting their funding in to duplicate in between the two intersections, and they should. If you drive from Clyde North into the city now, the longest part of the drive is the first couple of kilometres from Clyde North just to get on the freeway to come into the city. And out in that area, they don't have the railway station close to them. So most people and families that move in there are now 3 and 4 car families. So that means that there's more and more cars on a road that can't take it. They're going onto a freeway that we continue to expand and widen, whereas what we should be doing is investing that money into extra rolling stock. So more trains available at Beaconsfield. And finally, if I had my way with this $150 million or a very small margin of it, we would upgrade Beaconsfield Railway Station because, as I said to the member for Sunbury before, it's only fair. People with a disability don't have the opportunities that we have and must use public transport. To put them in a position where they have to go to the end of that platform is simply unfair. And I say to the government, it's your choice, it's your call. You've decided not to upgrade Beaconsfield Station at all, and I think you should hang your heads in shame on that. It's been called for a long period of time, and people with disability deserve the respect that when they get to the railway station, they'll be treated the same when it's raining, when it's extraordinarily hot, when it's windy, that everybody else has. We can stand under a shelter. They can't because they have to be at the end of the railway station as the train pulls up. and it's simply not fair.